Here is the truck. We are getting 8 cubic yards of gravel for the temporary garage that the Porsche will be going in. So he's just backing up a little more. It's pretty tight in here. Very tight. That's about it, I think. Wow, that's a tight fit. And that is it. So that is going to go over here. You can see where we dug out the place for the garage. So we'll be filling this with gravel. Julian has been working away on the gravel, so he's got almost all of it done. Just need to do this area at the end here. So good progress. Good progress, and we still have lots of gravel left over to level out the driveway, which is good. It needed it.
Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. Today I'm going to be pruning up and repotting my 2 little leaf Ficus benjamina. I'm also going to be talking about the November meeting at the Toronto Bonsai Society, and I'm going to be talking about European buckthorn. The Toronto Bonsai Society meeting was on the Monday, so I went down early to Toronto and visited David's place, and I was looking for pots. I was looking for a pot for my Austrian Pine. It's in a mica pot at the moment, and I thought it's time to get it into a clay pot. I think it'll improve the health of the tree, and I wanted a slightly larger pot to grow those sacrifice branches in the apex. So we found this gray unglazed pot here. It's a little bigger than the pot it's in. It's a little deeper, and it looked really good, the gray color with the gray trunk. So that'll be coming up in spring. I'll repot it into this pot. It'll finally get a clay pot. David also makes pots. My Sarissa is in a pot that David made, and he gave me this pot. It's one he made. It's a, I would say, a very artistic pot, sort of a spiral wrap of clay. He said the hole in it can represent the moon or the sun. So he was thinking a cedar would look nice in here. Maybe my wild thing, my cascade cedar here, would look good in it. So we'll be trying that out in spring also. Underneath the pot for my Austrian Pine is a large, shallow oval pot. And I was trying out pots for my Sarissa, my Pruning style Sarissa. And I tried probably 15 to 20 pots out, putting the pot in front of the tree and just stepping back and seeing how it looked. And I wasn't having any luck finding pots. We tried antique Chinese pots of all different colors and sizes and glazes, and nothing was really popping out until I tried this large flat oval pot, and it looked really good in it. I think the Pruning style needs a large landscape under it to make the tree look isolated in the environment. So that'll also be coming up in spring. I'll be repotting the Sarissa into this oval pot. On the floor of the greenhouse here, you might notice some new trees, and it's all these jades. These jades were grown by James. He's the fellow that gave me the indoor grow lights, the LED lights. And I met him at the Toronto Bonsai Society's fall show and sale for the first time. And he emailed me as saying that he's moving to the United States and he can't take his trees with him. And he was wondering if I would take them. And I said, well, I don't really have room for them, but he said otherwise he can't find anyone else to take them. They would just get chucked in the compost. So I thought, oh, I better save them. So I've taken them in. I am going to try and give them away at the
the November meeting of the Kitchener-Waterloo Club, and I'm hoping someone will take them. If not, they'll have to get reduced back and put in the basement for the winter where it's cool, and just try and develop them into something really, really cool. So the trees are super, super healthy. James has done an excellent job of growing them. These trees are, I think he said, maybe 5 or 6 years old from very small cuttings. So probably cuttings like this size. And they've just grown really well. So yeah, jades are nice to have on hand because I was experimenting with the scarring of the trunks. And it was quite successful until I got those mealy bugs on my jade and it killed it, the one I scarred up the trunk. So I can try the scarring on these ones and see how I do, how the trees do, if I can't give them away. There's several small ones here too. I think people will take those. And then there's a really nice Gollum jade here that I don't think I'd be able to part with. So those are some new additions. I've got to find room in the basement for them. Oh, it's going to be tough. The focus of the meeting at the Toronto Bonsai Society this month was a group critique. So you bring in trees and many of the people in the club critique it, and it's all written down and recorded. So I brought my Austrian Pine in. You can see the number 1 on it here. And I have all these sheets of paper with the critiques of the tree written down on it. So I'll be reading you those. I also brought in my cedar forest here. You can see number 13 on that. So that also got critiqued by the groups. So I'll be also reading you all the comments about this forest. And I haven't read the ones on this forest yet, so it'll be interesting to see what people say. My large European buckthorn here lost its leaves fairly early in fall. And I don't think it was, a problem with health on the tree or anything, but it may be lack of vigor. I did prune this branch back, and I don't see any new buds on it. Maybe there's some swelling, but if the tree's in the ground and you prune them, they respond very quickly, sending out whirls of new shoots on them. So this tree in the pot here is definitely way less vigorous than a tree in the ground, and I have to figure out why. It may be something to do with the roots, that they need a larger root system. So maybe it'll come as I develop a good root system on this tree. So it'll be interesting to see if I can get this tree very, very vigorous. So this summer I watered and fertilized it very, very well. So I don't think, it was for lack of water or nutrients. It may be the size of the root ball. Maybe it just needs a larger pot. Maybe it's the temperature that in the ground the roots stay cooler. So I have to figure out how to get this tree super vigorous. That is my mission with the buckthorns. I'm in the woods here looking at buckthorn, and there's a lot of buckthorn around here. Here's a look at the root base of a fairly mature tree. And you can see it has very large surface roots. Nice bark coming up. And the thing I wanted to point out is that they still have their leaves. They're falling off now, but the top of them is still green. And you can see all the green in the forest here. It's all buckthorn. You can see the forest floor here is just littered with buckthorn leaves. So they're all coming off now. But what a difference from my one in the pot to the ones that are growing in the forest here. Check out the root base on this buckthorn. It's really something. So it's growing up right beside an old ash tree here. The ash tree's dead, but the buckthorn is looking really good. Yeah, so I've also noticed that when I prune the buckthorn, when the tree's in the ground, it responds really quickly. It sends out new shoots everywhere. So there's a definite difference in vigor from trees in the ground versus trees in a pot. Here's another buckthorn with quite a developed root base on it. You can see the roots, how they spread out. Yeah, so I don't know what makes the difference in a pot versus the ground. If it's temperature, the amount of roots, maybe in the ground the roots spread out, really far. Maybe a pot is too constricting for a buckthorn. So yeah, I have to figure out how to get my buckthorn really vigorous in the pot. I'll be reading the comments of my Austrian pine and my cedar forest soon, but first I'm going to work on my 2 little leaf Ficus benjamina. I've been working on the roots of this ficus for many years, trying to sort them out. They were horrible at first, and it's slowly getting there. I mounded the soil up, kind of covering up the roots last time I repotted the tree. So I think today I can expose those surface roots. And I want to put it in a slightly bigger pot. I think this pot is just a little bit too small for the tree, to develop the tree. This is more of a show-sized pot. So I'm going to put it into this pot, which is, quite a bit larger. This is a 3D printed pot. I think that'll help, develop the tree. So today I'm also going to sort out all the new branches that have grown in, get the structure of the tree back on track. Then I'll put it back in the plant room and it should grow really well over the winter. I'm going to start the pruning by doing a profile prune, shaping this to the typical ficus umbrella canopy. So I've got my blue scissors ready to go. To spring into action, here I go. So I'm going to start at the top of the tree, getting my height, and then rounding the profile down. And I'll do it from all angles. Getting a rounded canopy on the tree. I think that looks good. Next, I'll come in with my fine scissors and do my branch selection. So anything growing back in towards the tree will get removed. So there's a branch here that's growing back in towards the center of the tree. So I'll begin the pruning process, taking that out. There's one here that's crossing everything. I'll move that. And I think I'm getting pretty close to finishing the pruning. Maybe just a little work back here, getting rid of these vertical branches. Putting that branch back shorter. And getting rid of the one on the inside. I'll go shorter with that branch. And the tip can come off here. And here. And this one needs to come back. And this one. Really compacting the tree now. There's another scale blister there. Oh, nasty. Nasty scale. Okay, I think we better step back and have a look at the tree. Here's a look at what I took off the tree. A lot of branches. Here's what the tree looks like now, so it's quite sparse. But under the grow lights it should fill in fairly quickly. Here's a look at the tree from the front now. So you can see I need to develop this side a bit more, getting some structural branches out to balance the tree a bit more. It's pretty light of foliage at the moment, but it will fill in. I've got some pretty big scars here that are healing, and they'll continue to heal both, on the trunk and the root base. But I think, it's getting better with age for sure. You just keep working on them, and eventually you get it looking really good. So my next step is to repot the tree into the larger pot. I'm going to pull the tree out of the pot now. The soil is quite dry on the bottom. I'm surprised. Okay, so you can see it hasn't, the roots haven't filled this pot. So maybe the pot wasn't too small for it, but I think it'll do better in a larger pot. I'll begin combing out the roots now. So I wanted to expose more of this root base. It'll be kind of a gnarly root base, and then I want to grow all my roots down lower. So this tree was kind of at the back of one of the benches, and it probably wasn't watered as well as it could be. Now it is very humid in the plant room, so even though the soil is dry here, the roots are quite happy. They'll grow in mid-air on these trees in a humid environment. And in fact, keeping the soil dry helps promote aerial roots, because the tree is searching for moisture. There's a thick root I cut off here, and it's growing fine roots at the cut point, which is good. Okay, I think that's looking good. All right, I'll clean up this soil. I'll put that on the compost pile, and then we'll come back and see if it needs any root pruning. I'm sure it can use a little bit. Here is a look at the root base. I'll just spray it down, keeping all those fine roots moist. And kind of wash out the soil a bit. So I can always do a little root pruning. You can see there's one long root here that needs trimming back. It's getting too long. This one could be pruned back. These are all doing well. This one, the non-radial part, can get pruned away. I can clean up some of this moss that's growing on the root base. So I'll scrub that with the toothbrush, getting rid of that moss. The rest of the roots are looking pretty good. This one's getting a little bulbous, but it's okay for now. Yeah, I think that's all the root correction I need at this time. So let's get the tree potted up now. So I'll prepare the pot. This pot was 3D printed by Spectre 3D, and it stood up really well. It's quite old now. I didn't paint this one. It's just the raw plastic color, and you can see it's got some patina on it now. I will give it a light cleanup. And I'll get a drainage screen in the bottom. I put way too many drainage holes in this pot, so I'll have to put a big rectangular drainage screen in. I have my drainage screen in the bottom of the pot, so I'll add a base layer of soil. And I'm going to plant the tree quite high this time, kind of exposing those roots. So I think I'll need one more scoop for the drainage layer. That's looking better. And now I'll position the tree in the pot. So let's step back and have a look at it. Okay, so here's the tree now. So you can see it's sitting too high now. And I'm wondering about the position in the pot. I think I want it more to the right-hand side. Do I? To the left-hand side. If I have it on this side, it leaves a bit of space here, which is kind of nice. Almost gives it a penging quality, a landscape feel. I do like it there, and I think if it's over the other side, I think it shows the roots more here. Again, it has that landscape feel, but so I've been playing around with the position in the pot. And I think I want to keep my trunk vertical, so I don't want to tilt it either way. And I do like it to the left-hand side. I think I kind of like this negative space here. I've tried it both sides of the pot, and I like it more to this side. Kind of giving a landscape penging feel to the planting. So I think right about here will do. Maybe just a little more vertical. And maybe tilted towards the front just a bit more. Something like that is looking good. Yeah, I think because these roots are fairly steep going down into the soil, it doesn't need more space on this side of the pot, whereas this root kind of goes more horizontally and it looks like it needs room to grow out here. So I think, you know, as far as the roots, it's a good position in the pot. It looks balanced. Okay, I think that's going to be it. Now, could I raise it up a little more? If I raise it in the pot, it'll just be a tiny bit more. So I'll do that. So I'll just put a little more soil underneath. Replant the tree. How is that looking? I think it needs to be tilted a little more. I think it's leaning too much. So I'll put a little more soil under this side. I've got to imagine this line of the root kind of tapering into the soil. So maybe it's still just a little high. I'll work it down just a little bit more. Maybe to there. Yeah, that looks good. That looks good. That root looks like it would flow down into the soil nicely. My trunk's vertical. Now, I think that's good. I'll fill it in with soil after I arrange the roots. So there's not a lot of roots to comb here, but I'll make sure the ones that are here are combed out. Okay, that's good. So now I can fill it in with soil. I think that's looking quite nice. I will give the tree a water now. All right, here I go with the water. That should be good. So next I've got to spray the tree for those scale insects. So I'll get out my soap and water and give it a good spray, letting that soap soak in and kill all the insects. So here I go with my soap and water. I'll start from underneath. And I'll have to turn the tree around. And then I'll come above and spray. And that should do it. I'll let that soak in for 4 or 5 minutes, and then I'll rinse the whole tree thoroughly. Okay, it's time to rinse the tree off now, so here I go. Rinse the soil out too. Here is a look at the tree in its new pot. Yeah, I think, you know, it's got the structure back on track. It's repotted into a slightly larger pot, which will help it grow with a bit more vigor. Got the scale insects cleaned up. That's going to help it grow also. So back into the plant room it goes. Next up is the tree critique.
And I'm going to start with my Austrian pine. So there was tables of 6 people, and each table, everyone critiqued it and they wrote down the comments, and then all the tables, the notes got handed in to the owner of the tree, and now I can read the comments. So here I go. So here is the critiques on the tree. So the first table said, love the root system overall. One root is too high for one person. Would be nice to see it grow thicker or remove it. Good root spread all around. Root system can be improved. Nice bark and trunk line. Notice some swellings in the trunk. Notice sacrifice branches at the top of the tree. Lowest branch to maybe cut. Perhaps change front of tree and wire lower branches down. Debate on which is a better front. So maybe the back is the better front. Maybe the front is the better front. The next table said, Nabari, nice flare, many roots, looks old, and it's got moss and lichen on it. Trunk, no taper, then reverse taper. Best front is possibly the back of the tree. Branch, cut whorled branches too late, so that's what created that bulge in the first place, and that was like that from the nursery. I got it with that bulge at the top. Thin out foliage, left lower branches grow. So they want to see, I guess, these lower branches on this side grown out a bit more. Apex needs some thinning. Remove too long top sacrifice branches. Pot, good size and shape, maybe just a bit bigger. So I do have that bigger gray pot. That'll help the tree out. Overall health is good. The next table said Nabari, very nice. Trunk line, 2 lumps, which can be carved out. Branch placement, removal of many branches at top, especially 2 long branches, the sacrifice branches, and they like the pot. The next table said Nabari, overall not bad. Trunk line has bulges but can't help it. Little taper to the trunk. Branches, good placement. Back branches to be more developed. Apex, cut the top 2 branches off, those sacrifice branches. Pot, nice size and color. Overall, clean up shagginess, low hanging needles. Keep to one size of needle. Needs more canopy development at the back of the tree. The next table said nice Nabari and bark. Some bar branches. Lowest branch needs some interest, maybe guy wire downward. 2 runaway branches at the top need trimming to profile. There's quite a large bulge at the middle of the tree. Needles short and healthy. And that's it for the Austrian pine, the critique on it. And I like feedback like that. I'm aware of a lot of the problems with this tree, and but it's nice to get some feedback on it, see what people think, and it's nice to come up with solutions to the problems too. So there were some people thinking that my sacrifice branches at the back will maybe not do what I wanted to do. They think it'll thicken the whole trunk up and I won't get taper. They were thinking running sacrifice branches off of the lower branches, growing them out and then vertically up to help thicken up the lower part of the trunk and maybe get more taper to the trunk. So that's a possibility. I'm going to try keeping the sacrifice branches at the top for now. I'm going to let it grow for about 5 years, those sacrifice branches. If they're not smoothing out the bulges in the trunk and doing what I want it to do, that's basically to smooth out that trunk. If it's not doing that, then I'll have to try a different approach, either sacrifice branches off the lower or the side branches, or actually carving the trunk, the bulges out of the trunk. The next critique was on my thuja forest here. So there was just 3 tables that critique this tree. So let's go through the notes. Repot. The roots are pushing the trees out of the pot, so that is definitely on my list to do this spring. It's very dense, cannot see through, but maybe that's the intent. So that was the intent of this forest. So yeah, that could change in the future, who knows. Branches, foliage, one branch on the
on the main tree clashes with other trees, remove or redirect.
Okay.
Okay. Do something about leggy branch at the back. So there must be a leggy branch at the back. Trunk. Problem. Bottom branch does not have the same old bark as the trunk. Looks strange. Okay, yeah, there's a branch hidden in here that doesn't have the lichen and the old bark on it because it's kind of shaded out. The bark is very nice. So that was one table. The second table said, perhaps a repot, exclamation mark. Bigger, deeper pot, clear out smaller growth, better view of primary tree trunk. Small trees seemed out of place with the larger one. Someone suggested reducing lowest branches or making it a triple trunk. Okay. And the next table said, Narbari root base excellent, should be repotted, pushing out of the pot, yes. Trunk line movement. Beautiful main trunk, good taper, but too much going on around it. Too symmetrical, remove some of the smaller trees. Branch placement needs pruning midway up from the front. Remove the lower part of the double branch. Okay. Yeah, there's a double branch up in here. They're talking about removing the lower part of it, and I've thought of doing that many, many times, and I think I will do that in the future. Apex formation. Branches on the back left from the base of the main trunk should be removed. Okay, so there's a branch that comes out partway up that kind of goes out to the back, and it kind of crosses the trunk line. Maybe should be removed. Back, two-third branches with no back buds should be removed, keeping on top of pinching back buds. Okay. They said the apex formation is excellent, pot selection is excellent, overall style, they love it. Okay. So those are the notes on my cedar forest. And yeah, I can see everyone's points. And it's good. It's good to have a record and think. You don't have to do the suggestions, but it's good points to ponder on. You think, you know, they're maybe saying remove a branch or something, and then you think about it, and maybe you do want to remove that branch, or maybe you think, no, it's got to stay. But it's good to have people point out fresh eyes on your bonsai. And it's a difficult thing to do because you're getting, 20 people or more looking at your tree, and everyone has their own opinion on it. But generally there's a consensus that, if 20 people look at the same tree and they all say you should remove that one branch, then there's a good chance that branch should be removed. If 19 people say I love that branch and one person says to remove it, then the general consensus is probably to keep that branch. So, and in the end, it's your tree. You've got to decide what's best for the future and your future vision of the tree. But I think it's fantastic to get feedback. I wish I could have brought in every one of my trees and had the entire club look at every tree and write down their critiques on it, because you would learn a lot about your own trees and its faults and its good points and how you can correct it in the future.
My bonsai work is finished, so now I'm going to wheelbarrow gravel for the rest of the evening. And that's all for today. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.